I woke up today with that familiar confidence that only exists before reality checks your paperwork. I put in my earphones, pressed play, and within 30 seconds, I was doing that face. You know the one. Is it the recording, is it me, or is the universe personally attacking my face with upper frequencies face? And yes, you're here with me watching me trying to make sense of yet another small object that promises happiness and delivers. A learning experience. Welcome to the Superchunk Super Audio Show. So, planar IEMs. Here's the thing, they tend to reproduce treble very consistently, across bands, across price brackets, across the entire spectrum of human optimism. The treble is usually clear, high resolution, and honestly kind of impressive in that, wow, I can hear the air moving way. But planars also come with a reoccurring personality flaw. Treble that can sound a bit metallic, sometimes it's a shimmer, sometimes it's a glare, sometimes it's like the cymbals were replaced with thin sheets of disappointment being shaken in a hallway. Which brings us to this week's odd little plot twist. Kefine looked at that problem and said, what if we solve it sideways? They added a balance armature. That is mildly bewildering because one of the main advantages of a single planar driver, similar to that of a single dynamic driver, is coherence. One driver, one voice, fewer variables, fewer opportunities for reality to fall apart at the seams. Add a balance armature and you give up some of that simplicity. You introduce more phase matching variables, and if not done properly, you can even end up with cancellation. In other words, you can absolutely fix treble, but you might accidentally delete parts of music like you're editing your own memories. Today we are doing a deep dive into the Kefine Arnar, spelled A-R-N-A-R, because apparently we are also practicing a pronunciation to keep our brains from drifting into the void. Starting things off with an unboxing. Once you've seen one Kefine unboxing, you've honestly seen most of them. The Arnar isn't very different from the Clean SV, which we looked at earlier this year. You get a sleeve with a render on the front, and right beneath it, they make sure you understand the entire point of this product, planar plus balance armature hybrid. No mystery, no poetry, just a statement of intent. Open the box and you get the IEMs themselves, and I'll admit, they look genuinely spiffy. There are two types of ear tips with slightly different profiles because nothing says personal journey like trying to remember which silicone shape made your left ear feels less angry. You also get a carrying case, and inside is a 2-pin cable with swappable terminations. 3.5mm, 4.4mm, and also a USB Type-C. This is either for convenience or it's for the people who believe that all decks sound the same and want to prove it through sheer commitment. Either way, it's nice to have. And then there are 3 nozzle types, 2 of which are here. One elevates treble and the other gives you a duller presentation, because Kefine understands that some of us are chasing details while others are just trying to reduce the amount of emotional damage a hi-hat can do. Build and comfort. Build quality is where the Arnar starts quietly showing off. The faceplate is genuinely gorgeous, an octagonal tile pattern layered over a silver mesh. It adds dimension to what could have been a plain black shell, and somehow it manages to look tasteful without drifting into that typical look at me, I'm expensive, clap please aesthetic. For a Chi-Fi product, it looks very good. Inside the chassis is a 14.5mm planar driver paired with a balance armature, and this is the core idea. Planar drivers are generally full range systems, but if you can hand treble duties to a balance armature, at least in theory, you might solve the metallic shimmer problem without losing the planar strengths. The cable will also feel quite familiar if you know the brand. It's a 2-pin cable and listed having 392 strands of silver-plated oxygen-free copper conductors with the same swappable plugs, 3.5mm, 4.4mm and Type-C. Comfort is good, nothing pokes, so no complaints. Nothing forces you into that quiet negotiation with your own ears. Sound. The Arnar is a hybrid IEM that blends the tonal properties of planar and balance armature drivers. And right now, this isn't the most common solution. Across a large portion of the sound, you hear the planar's strength, bass that is linear, fast, clean and controlled, and then there's the balance armature stepping in to handle treble, assisting the planar right where its weakness usually shows, which helps the top end sound smooth rather than metallic. And yes, this is a V-shaped IEM, of course it's V-shaped. Evolution has apparently decided that most people want bass and sparkle, and the mid-range politely trying not to get hit by either of them. Still, the tonal weight here feels natural with a slight warmth, which makes the Arnar come across as musical instead of very clinical. It's not trying to impress you with sterile perfection, it's trying to keep you listening. Bass. Everything you expect from planar rendered bass is here. It's taut and impactful, though slightly more restrained compared to a dynamic driver. The clarity is excellent with strong control and articulation. Sub-bass is more present than mid-bass and it does a good job avoiding harmonic smearing. So if you like bass that behaves like it reads the instructions first, you are in for a good time. Mid-range. I like the mid-range on the Arnar. It has a natural, slightly warm character that tints vocals in a flattering way, giving them personality while keeping technical performance intact. Instruments have good weight and don't feel bullied by the bass or treble. Even harmony instruments have strong definition, which is one of those details you don't always notice until it's missing. And then you spend the rest of the evening wondering why your music feels like a lost dimension. Treble. This is the main event, and the balance armatures help significantly. Treble here is largely smooth with good extension. It addresses common planar issues where cymbals can get overemphasized and turn into sizzle first, instrument second. The result is more refined with a solid level of micro detail retrieval, so yes, it can do critical listening, but it does not demand that you sit perfectly still and take notes like you are auditing your own enjoyment. Soundstage. I like the way Arnar presents Soundstage. It resembles a small concert hall with precise positional cues that makes imaging feel deliberate rather than accidental. Binaural recordings in particular are a treat, like the mix finally has enough space to breathe without bumping into your skull. Ratings. The Arnar feels like a planar lover's dream in one specific way. It addresses many of the common complaints people have about planar treble, and it does it without throwing away the things that make planar sets so appealing in the first place. For enjoyment, I'd rate it an A. It's not perfect. I do think Kefine could benefit from adding more flair into the packaging. The render on the front approach reminds me of a product from the early 2000s. Back when everything looked like it was sold in a quiet corner on the internet and arrived with a mild existential dread. Anyways, that's the Kefine Arnar. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this episode, consider hitting the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel more than you'd think, and I appreciate it. With that said, I hope to see you guys soon.